Okay, today we're going to talk about political cartoons and kind of the messages that we can glean from them and how we go about getting messages from political cartoons. So as we go through, and this PowerPoint is posted on eBackpack, we're going to talk about a few techniques that cartoonists will use to get their points across. Um, there are a variety of things from labeling to exaggeration. There's symbolism, analogies, ironies that they can draw. So if you look at this little cartoon on this screen here, you can see there's a bubble. It says, "Wow, Mr. President, you're a dead shot." And he has shot an arrow that says Bin Laden on it, and that happens to be a bullseye, and it's on something that says the bullseye is on something that says foreign policy. If you notice all the other arrows down here in the ground that fell short of the target, and let alone a bullseye, you have things like Libya, Iran, Israel, Syria, Russia, all these foreign policy missteps. So, we can look at this cartoon and say, probably the cartoonist is not a fan of Barack Obama's foreign policy. And there's lots of symbolism in this cartoon. The use of simple objects or symbols, they're standing for larger concepts or ideas. So in here, the arrows are the different foreign policy goals, and the target is the foreign policy overall. And you can see that on most things, the goal didn't reach its target, except for on one here. But symbolism is just one technique cartoonists use, and usually they use a variety of techniques in their cartoons. Exaggeration is another common characteristic or a common thing that cartoonists will use. This cartoon kind of points to that here. Um, you know, if you ever see a political cartoon of Barack Obama, usually they overemphasize his ears. I don't know that there's really a meaning behind that, but if you look at this one here, what's the common thing we're looking at? Could almost also be a analogy: Pinocchio with a long nose, Barack Obama here with a long nose, probably implying that he lied about lots of things and his nose grew, as even the events along his nose are in um, sequential order in which they happened. So we're using exaggeration here to make a point. Sometimes we just use labeling to make our points. Here, this one is very well made just by labeling. I mean, we don't see Barack Obama, um, but we label the man there, Barack Obama or Obama. A child in itself, we wouldn't know what was meant to represent America, but in this cartoon, we know that now. And if we know those two things and we look at the quote bubbles, we can begin to piece together what the meaning of that cartoon might be. If we look at the next one here, an analogy, it's a comparison between two kind of unlike things. And again, we're making comparisons of a swimming pool to a risk pool in healthcare, and how those might work. And again, if we were to read the labels here in the cartoon, we could again begin to glean the message of the cartoonist. Irony is another technique that cartoonists will use. Um, this cartoon is kind of pointing that out here. You've got a wealthy rich man eating lots of pie, where the middle class got one piece to split amongst themselves, and then the poor people on the end here got only a few morsels. A couple things to point out in this cartoon, because it does bring them up here. An elephant is a popular symbol. It's symbolic of the GOP, or the Republican Party. If we were to see a donkey that represents the Democratic Party. But there's lots of things here. We've got lots of labeling with the poor, the middle class, the rich. It's all labeled, and even the symbolism behind the coloring that the cartoonist decided to use in this cartoon. Notice this is a rich old white man, middle class again white, and then the minorities the cartoonist chose to represent by a darker colored of skin, again representing and symbolizing society as a whole if you look at those classes and who is typically in them. So there's lots going on in this cartoon as well. Where we could begin to glean the meaning from. We'll go back and we'll look at the meanings of these here at the end. But again, if we are going to analyze a political cartoon, we need to first look at the cartoon and determine what issue is the political cartoon about. What is the cartoonist editorializing? And then once we kind of get that, by looking at the symbols, by looking at the analogies or whatever irony that the cartoonist is using, we can begin to think about what is a cartoonist trying to say? What is the message? And what is a cartoonist's opinion of the issue? And again, we know that by looking at what the cartoonist did. What types of things did the cartoonist use to get their point across? Then also, once we've looked at that, we can begin to ask ourselves what other opinions might people have on the issue. Is the cartoon persuasive? Why or why not? What methods could they have used? What other techniques could they have used to get their point across? They're all things we're going to look at. So we're going to practice that here in a second. Here we have a political cartoon. There's lots of labeling. We've got Paul Ryan over here, who, for those of you that don't know, is a Speaker of the House, and he seems to be presenting a budget plan. And it's kind of the message he's getting at here is it's kind of mythical. Their budget plan is finding a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. Well, we know that those don't exist. And again, 1% labeling here saying that would be the 1% finding that pot of gold. So you can see that the cartoonist here probably has a rather negative opinion of the GOP budget plan. He might think that it's in fantasy world and that you're just not going to find a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. Here we have another political cartoon. Again, note the labeling. We have a somewhat overweight fellow with a tank top on labeled government. And he's asking the doctor, "Doc, do I eat too much?" Here we have the symbolism, a donkey again for the Democratic Party. And he says, "Relax, I'm not there to judge anyone," or "I'm not here to judge anyone." Meaning that, the larger gentleman eating an ice cream cone, which might be more taxes or whatever it might be, saying that, there's never too much, basically. So again, this person is probably saying, they probably have a negative opinion of the Democratic budget plan that he's looking at here. Here we have one of Hillary Clinton, where again, symbolism, she's got back here, it's kind of hard to read the wording, but it says lies and scandals all over back here. It looks like she's holding a phone that says delete, delete, delete. And then she's saying, what difference does it make? At the bottom, it's labeled trunk full of junk. Again, if you kind of been paying attention to the news, you know this is obviously hearkening to the many lies and scandals that have been associated with Hillary Clinton. Whether it be the email delete, 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 Benghazi, where she famously said, what difference does it make anyway? And then just this trunk full of junk is all this baggage that she kind of carries with her. So this cartoonist obviously has a rather negative opinion of Hillary Clinton. Now, I'm not quite sure that you'll ever see the type of material again if we don't have another presidential candidate like Donald Trump. If you look at this cartoon, obviously it is poking fun at Donald Trump. It seems that he can't go on for that long without as this cartoonist is showing, shooting himself in the foot. So if you look here, you've got McCain, or I mean not McCain, sorry, Trump. It's labeled, but it looks a lot like the Donald. He says, "I'm sticking to my guns," and his guns are anti-Mexican slurs, and McCain no hero, which he stated that was about a couple weeks ago in the news. That was kind of big news. And again, he's kind of shooting himself in the foot, meaning he's hurting his own campaign basically every time he opens his mouth, and he refuses to back down on a lot of those things. So again, a little bit of practice with that. If we go back up to some of the cartoons that we looked at, obviously this cartoon is about Obamacare. And now this is a little bit of a dated cartoon anymore. It's about 7, 8 years old. But it's showing that the young and healthy are paying for a lot of the costs associated with Obamacare, something that they weren't really promised. So the cartoonist is here showing a rather negative opinion of Obamacare. In this this cartoon here, basically you have the cartoonist looking at Barack Obama's State of the Union address, and a lot of the promises that he made to different groups of people. And this person, America in the Disney mouse here, is saying, "I love free stuff," meaning that it was kind of duped to go along. So somebody that probably has a negative opinion of Barack Obama and of giving away a lot of free stuff. This cartoon, self-explanatory. I don't think I need to go over it. And this one we kind of talked about more at the beginning. So throughout the semester, we will be examining political cartoons. You will be going out and finding your own political cartoons to examine, and then you're going to go to eBackpack, use the form there to analyze the cartoon. Probably on every Friday, I'll select 1 or 2 students to present their political cartoon, and we'll kind of discuss them in class.